Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Ctrl/C, the Speedcast. I am your co-host, Ike Isaacs, and I am, of course, joined by the main host, if you can call him a host with the most. We are joined with Salsa Shy. How's it going, man?
Same as always. I mean, the only difference is I don't recognize these walls. I'm hundreds of miles from home. I may or may not be in a captive type situation.
So he he may or may not be. So, fun fact, me and Salsa are actually in the same geographical location at the current moment in time. We are coming to you moderately live from the Geek-Stew home base, which is my apartment.
Yeah, I don't know if we should say apartments, like safe house sounds cooler.
Yeah, this is about as far away from a safe house as it gets. No, I kid. But yeah, so Salsa's here with me. Just kind of a brief explanation as to why he is here with me. Our families go on a yearly vacation to a cool place called Indiana Beach in Monticello, Indiana. If you're interested in that, you can check out our Monday video, which was a kind of a quick video that showed, what all we do and whatnot, and all that good stuff. So it was kind of fun. Showed some of the food that we ate. Salsa is technically in the video. What I mean by that is that he is off screen and you can hear his voice. And I think there's like one time where like you can see his elbow and one time you can see his feet. Not his bare feet, mind you. It's not time for. What was the word I'm talking about? It's not time for OnlyFans, at least not yet, I think. But yeah, so we went to Indiana Beach. He came back with me, and he's gonna stay with me for a couple weeks, and then eventually we are going to have to make a trip to Virginia to drop him off back with his family, like a parent who doesn't actually like their kids. We're going to leave them and never see him again.
I was going to say more like a lost dog, but I mean, yeah, that's about right.
So I'll probably do another video for when we go on our brief trip to Virginia. It'll be like a day, so I might make a video of that just because, why not? It's content. But
it's just going to be you driving for like 7 hours and then being like, oh, here we are in a McDonald's drive-thru, gonna eat and then go to bed and maybe take a shit.
True. It'll probably be like 5 hours, maybe 6. But it'll be 6 or less hours, hopefully. I say hopefully, but who knows? But anyhow, so probably for the next couple episodes, we'll be in the same area together. So we've been able to work collaboratively to come up with some topics and everything else. So, but yeah, we are in separate rooms because we don't actually have like a full setup to where we have like our own microphones. Salsa's on his laptop and I'm on my phone. So, the quality is maybe a little bit different than what you guys are expected to or used to or whatever. But yeah, you can't be a spoiled bitch and get everything you want. So, take your whining ass elsewhere. Anyway.
I kind of feel, well, hold on. I feel like I'm bringing more to this relationship, I got a fucking PC set up at home with the whole rig and whatnot. I got a fucking laptop, which was state of the art like 5 years ago. A fucking nice headset and all this shit. Multiple recording devices and programs. Meanwhile, you're just like, yeah, I just open Discord on my phone and boom, podcast.
To be fair, I don't have the discretionary resources that Salsa does.
Discretionary resources. I just knew a drug addict who needed money.
I mean, while that is true, you don't pay rent. I do. Unfortunately.
Fucking shade.
True. I fucking $700 a month, man, to live in an apartment.
Just
mean,
live in the fucking woods like an animal.
I would, except for I need a job and I like to shower occasionally. So living in the woods, in with that.
Gotta pick and choose your battles, man. Sometimes it's live under the thumb of corporate America, or live like a fucking caveman.
Have
Easy.
have a shitty asshole 24/7.
Oh, it's only shitty if you don't wipe your ass in, the sand or something.
Yo, bro, I'd rather not wipe my ass in the sand if possible.
Listen, you do you. I'm just saying, should you ever choose to live like that, it is that hard to find a nice, raw, reusable rock you can just wipe your shit on.
So we're not gonna do that because if I wipe my ass on a rock, I'm probably gonna get like hemorrhoids or something, and then like
See down at the creek.
probably keep wiping my ass on a rock and then like get hemorrhoids, and then the hemorrhoids get infected from like continuing to wipe my ass on a rock.
Just the way as God intended.
Just the way as God intended. Amen. Amen. But anyhow, so now that we've explained that, we've explained the geographical differences and where we're at currently, let's talk about. Excuse me. Sorry, I had yawn. Let's talk about some video games. So there's a couple things we want to talk about. I guess first and foremost, for a lot of people who don't know this, if you don't know this, or you live in Iraq, but the Mass Effect trilogy was recently re-released and was updated and everything else. So I mean, that's pretty cool if you ask me. Salsa's been trying to get me to play those games for a while, so now that we have the remastered and updated version, I probably will. And then the thing that I don't know much about is that there is obviously the three Mass Effect games, and then Mass Effect Andromeda, which a lot of people just basically hate. But they are making a Mass Effect 4, which you said comes out. I don't remember what you said.
Wow, man, we don't know. Literally, all they released was a little cinematic teaser where a familiar character finds like the N7 nameplate from Shepard's chest plate, but they don't even they're just like, yeah, Mass Effect isn't over. Like literally verbatim, that is what the trailer says at the end. It says Mass Effect will continue.
See, I mean, I guess that's better than what some game developers do. Silent Hills and so it's something. I know a lot of people like Mass Effect, so I guess it's at least it's something to tantalize your taste buds for Mass Effect.
All I'll say is, Mass Effect is by and large probably the best AAA RPG that exists in the gaming sphere. Anyone who is anyone should play Mass Effect. I never played the first one for years because, let's be honest, it was old, it looked like shit, it controlled like shit, and honestly, it wasn't worth the efforts. But damn, they fixed pretty much all those problems with the a legendary remaster. Plus, shit, what do you got to lose? $60, and that's 3 whole games with all the DLC. I think if I just take my first playthrough of each game, that's let's say 70 hours, 150. That's 220 hours right there. Then my third playthrough was probably at least 80 hours. That's 300 plus hours of gameplay. You can't beat it for the price.
From a value perspective, sure. I guess it just really depends on if you enjoy those games. I do like the occasional RPG, but sometimes I find myself in positions personally where if the world map is too large, that I feel overwhelmed by the game itself. So, I mean, like for instance, I like Horizon Zero Dawn, I like Ghost of Tsushima. Both of those are pretty, pretty not necessarily small, but they are controllable games. So obviously it'll just kind of depend. But I mean, from a pure value standpoint, absolutely. $60 for three, 60-plus hour games, even 100-plus-hour games, with all their, all their DLCs and additional content and stuff. That is a hell of a deal, I will say.
Now, I will say, you don't have to worry about the whole play area being too big because it's Mass Effect. The only part that's big is the universe, jumping between parts of the galaxy. But really, all that is kind of like a hub world in a way, where you're like, oh, well, I need to go over to the Krogan DMZ, for example, and do something on this planet. Once you get there, the maps really aren't that big. It's just a matter of the game is heavily story led, and and it puts a lot of emphasis into your choices as a person. Yeah, there's some shooting, but if you're not a big fan of the whole shooting, turn it off. You can literally turn it to where the game is pretty much just a talking simulator.
I mean, I do prefer the action perspective. I am even less into storytelling games than I am into RPGs of large RPGs. Like if it's only what
I'd say if you're not a fan of storytelling, you can turn it to where you don't make a single choice. The game literally just takes you and it focuses entirely on shooting.
I mean, to be fair, I do like a little bit of story. Like it's weird because like I have found like a handful of games that like perfectly meet my criteria, which would be, Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon Zero Dawn. But like you said, there are different settings that you can adjust to, fix your level of involvability and whatnot. So I'm sure that I will enjoy it to some extent.
Plus, I mean, it's not like a JRPG where literally every skill is like, as long as you're within 3.9 meters of the enemy and you hit the B button perfectly in sync with the enemy's attack, you'll perform like a breaker, buster, sword combo, wombo, whatever. It's more like, oh, well, you get points and you can put them in a skill. You want incendiary ammo? Cool. Higher the skill, the more damage it does. It's not that deep of an RPG. Like I said, it kind of takes all the best elements of an RPG, a shooter, and a story-led game. Hell,
Fair.
I think you can, even if you don't want to deal with like the RPG element, you can turn it off. It will literally automatically input your skill points into skills for you.
And I don't necessarily not like RPG elements. But I'm like, for instance, like games like Skyrim, Skyrim has like these really extensive RPG tree, like these skill trees and stuff like that are just impossible.
I mean, really, when you think about it, Skyrim is probably a medium when it comes to RPG. It's still a far cry from like JRPGs. Those things are a nightmare when it comes to min-maxing every last skill. But yeah, no, Mass Effect is pretty light on the RPG elements. It's literally just there so that there is a sense of progression outside of the story.
Right.
I mean, otherwise, what are you fighting and dying for? Yeah, kill the enemies, save the universe, blah, blah, blah. But I'm out here trying to maximize my, incendiary ammo and whatnot.
Right. Fair enough. But anyhow, so that's basically the update that we have right now for Mass Effect. So obviously keep an eye on that in the future because obviously we're going to see another game coming out pretty soon. And like I said, hopefully this will be better than Andromeda because, I from what I've heard, Andromeda was not a good game. And I know a lot of people were like shitting on like the, oh fuck, what even was it? It was like the animations or something, or like the facial animations or some shit.
I remember the rumor that floated around was they hired some person to do the facial animations who had never done animations before, but she just looked good on the resume because it was right in that time period where everyone was like, oh shit, if we don't start diversifying our staff, people are going to call us out on Twitter.
I mean, fair, but
I mean, hey, it's good to have a diverse staff with diverse opinions and thoughts and races, genders, sex, fucking whatever. But I mean, at least hire people who know how to make a game. Because Andromeda, I literally downloaded it for free because I have Game Pass. Played 10 minutes of it and already I couldn't. I deleted it. It is so bad. They took all the elements of Mass Effect that were good, made them worse, and then on top of that, had the audacity to like completely revamp the control system. So the game is now heavily focusing on mobility instead of classic Mass Effect, which is cover-based shooting.
gotcha. So I mean, I'll take that into consideration. I don't plan on playing Andromeda, but hey, maybe I'll boot it up and see what I feel like it is.
For your mental health, I would advise against, but you do you.
Fair. But anyhow, moving on from Mass Effect, the other thing we're going to talk about, which I don't know a whole lot about, but I know that it is existing. Assassin's Creed. They're continuing to milk the cash cow that is Assassin's Creed, and the most recent attempt at milking is what is it? Assassin's Creed Infinity. Is that right? Salsa, you still with me? You're cutting out there.
Yeah, Discord is having some issues. It literally just booted me, but I'm back. But yes,
Discord's like, not today, bitch.
You were asking about the upcoming Assassin's Creed.
Right. I think you said it was called Assassin's Creed Infinity. Is that right?
Yes. Preemptively, that is based on I think it was a leaked business report. But yeah, it's the idea that we're being given right now is that it's going to be a games as a service model, which I don't know if you're familiar with what that means.
Not really, but I mean, you should probably still explain it for the folks out there.
Well, to my knowledge, games as a service is basically instead of releasing a new game every year or every couple years, they take a single game and they milk the ever loving hell out of it for years, and you keep paying money without them having to release a new game, i.e., Rainbow Six Siege, Ghost Recon Wildlands, and Breakpoint. Um, it's becoming more common, albeit still heavily debated about whether or not we like it or not. Hitman, the new ones are supposedly doing pretty well, so that's a good sign. But with this new one, the idea that we have right now is that it's going to be, in theory, a hub world where you can play through different eras and different stories about different assassins all in the same game without having to switch disks or boot a different program, and that over time it's going to keep adding new titles or new contents that you can purchase. Now, I think I mentioned it in an earlier podcast that this, yeah, if they can pull it off. For example, I said they should make a default engine, whatever they're using for Valhalla, and then they should remake Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 to start. Sell that as its own $60 game. And then progressively keep remaking the old games in this engine as content. And then over time, eventually they would, make as much as they could. And then they could, on the side also have a group making full on games with to play alongside the remakes. Would have been a great idea, but probably not where they're going with it. No doubt what we're going to end up getting is, oh, well, here's the main game, and you can pay us $100 every year, and we'll give you, like, I don't know, about a game's worth of content, if you're lucky, if we're feeling generous.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know a whole lot about what they're planning on doing, but, at least in my opinion, the games as a service model, I feel like only works to. I feel like it only works in a situation in which you are committing to making sufficient content for the amount of money that you are charging. Because what I could see happening is that these people start the game process, they start making content and everything else, and then over time, they're going to either slow the content process, they're going to stop putting out as much content, or hell, maybe even the content quality will start to dip. Because I feel like that's kind of what happened with games like Breakpoint and what was the other game that you mentioned? Or Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege or whatever.
Yeah.
So, like with the Rainbow Six Siege, for instance, I mean, I really didn't play it to begin with, but whenever I tried to go in and like maybe think about playing it, I just felt like the content was starting to get so convoluted and so diluted in a way that it just didn't seem feasible for me to like sit down and say, "Yep, I'm just going to start playing this game now." You know what I mean?
I agree. There's no way they could reliably keep giving us yearly content each without basically ruining previous content. That's why when you try to boot the game, you hear shit like, oh, what's the new meta? Who's the new, player of the season? Because literally you have to research what character to play for the season, because some of them get buffs, some of them get nerfed. And you're not getting your money's worth, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, you're paying what, like $40 a year, and you get maybe 2 to 4 characters, but you're not really getting any new content outside of new characters. If you're lucky, some new guns. Oh, and then obviously all the loot boxes. Can't forget about those, because then you got to spend more money to get the new content drops for your new characters, because they get new outfits, but only unlockable if you pay us money.
I've always said, I know a lot of people don't like the game, but I've always said that like Overwatch is like a perfect example of like a game of that nature. All of the loot boxes and stuff are 100% cosmetic. All of the characters are unlocked as they bring them out. They release multiple characters over the years. You buy the base game, you get all of the characters in the game itself, and then like we said, you can buy additional loot boxes and everything else as additional content. But it's all cosmetic. It doesn't improve your gameplay. It's all optional, right? So you can play the game, never purchase a loot crate, and you're not going to be worse for wear.
I mean, theoretically, you can do the same thing with Siege. The loot boxes are just weapon skins and character outfits. But you have to look at it like, for example, if you're playing on a dark map, some characters have brighter clothing, but you could use a loot box and try to get the darker clothing variant. That gives you an advantage, but does that count as pay to win? Because if it does, then Overwatch would also be affected by that.
To be fair, though, Overwatch doesn't really have issues like that because of the nature of the game itself. All of the characters are very colorful, and even if there are dark colored, like, skins or whatever else, those skins are at best inconsequential for the overall game. I know that wasn't it like Warzone had like an issue where like they had like it was like a skin or something that like made you completely invisible, like if you were standing in dark corners or whatever.
I wouldn't be surprised. But the problem is, no matter what the game is, as long as it is human versus human, there's going to be some element of pay to win, especially
Right.
with cosmetics. Because, for example, in Overwatch, yeah, there's not really many dark maps or not really many instances in which a character could wear a dark outfit and have an advantage, but a character could wear an outfit that more closely resembles their surroundings, giving them, even if it is a tiny advantage by only like milliseconds, that would still be really the question is just whether or not it becomes what is the threshold for unfair advantage. At the end of the day, I don't care. I just don't like the whole loot box thing. That's really the big crux of my problem with Overwatch and all those other games.
I mean, I guess that's fair. I still don't like the concept of, I think my issue is the concept of purchasing like a season pass for a game, and then the season pass is only good for a period of time, and then if you don't have the
Oh,
season,
that's not really a season pass. That's more of a what are those? It's they had it in well, obviously they still have it in Siege where you can unlock everything manually, or you can speed up the process by buying it.
right?
Um, there's a name for those. It's not really a season pass because usually a season pass doesn't suck like that. Usually a season pass is just, oh yeah, well, you buy this and then you get the DLC for a reduced rate, basically.
I gotcha. Well, regardless, I still think that that's bullshit as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's literally just a way to milk money out of people who A don't want to spend 200 hours unlocking everything by hand because it's only available for a limited amount of time anyway.
Sure.
Even if it is all cosmetic, that is it's lazy and it is still pay to win because you're paying to get the shit everyone else wants but doesn't want to spend $50 for.
Obviously, and so I don't want to like push this off too much, but I was gonna say I just imagine like anybody who's listening, I just imagine that somebody's listening who's like a fan of like Siege or a fan of any of those like pay to win games. And I just imagine them listening to this and just being like really angry and like commenting something angry. So like I kind of hope that happens.
I mean, hey, if they want to get pissed off at me, that's fine. I'm not the one spending my mommy's credit card so I can unlock the Dark Woodland variant of whoever the fuck in Siege.
I need to buy V-Bucks.
Exactly. It is V-Bucks.
I need to buy 14,000 V-Bucks to buy the John Wick skin.
Bro, are you even? Do you even have the Thanos skin?
I I buy the Iron Man skin, and I can fly using the Iron Man skin, and
I've never played Fortnite, so that's about
um,
all I've got in me.
honestly, I just know that in Fortnite, like there's all these skins that are like available through like kind of like a season pass type deal.
Yeah.
Um, but you unlock them from like drops and stuff during the games, I think, or you can purchase them outright with V-Bucks. I don't know. I just feel like games like that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the developer has to make money, especially on free games like Fortnite.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't. I feel like it's very cancerous when
It
this game,
is.
because it's just like I don't know. It just feels like it's very. I'm trying to think of the word. It just seems very problematic, if you will, that like you are that you have this free game and you want to make money off of it, but like your game is targeted at children, and children who are very susceptible to, you know, to influence and everything else. And
just call it as it is. A loot box is gambling. It is child gambling.
I mean, it really is. And it's just, I don't know. I take issue with that because it's not. I'm not like, oh, it's corrupting us, but it's literally like breeding like this generation of children that are literally like stealing their parents' credit card information to fucking buy V-Bucks. And
I cannot count on both hands how many times I've heard a story of some kid buying hundreds of dollars worth of shit, and then the parent trying to sue the company like, oh, how dare you allow my kid to do this without parental permission? It's like, first off, why the fuck were you not watching your kid? And second off, you already know corporations are scummy, so that's also on you.
It is, and don't get me wrong, like, because in those situations, like, ultimately it's still the parent's fault. But I think what it boils down to is that like the company's still scummy, but like you expect this out of the company. But it's like, why would you let your kids like have open access to like your credit cards and stuff? And, like, why don't you keep your purse in your room or some shit? I mean, obviously, I know kids can be sneaky and whatnot. Like, don't get me wrong, I get that, but I feel like there's definitely a conversation to be had about like, oh yeah, we are specifically a game that has a very specific audience of like under 16-year-olds, under 15, 14, 13-year-olds. And they very specifically target those audiences with the type of content that they take. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're literally making like Marvel related content. They're putting different types of like, I mean, honestly, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's like the content that they put in these games are very specific to children. Like, children are going to specifically get excited over like the Avengers, or they're going to specifically get excited over like whatever other bullshit, the Power Rangers, whatever stuff that they put in there. You know what I mean?
Oh, let me put it like this. Fortnite is rated T for teen, which means as young as 13. Which means the game is aimed at minors. And if you're going to make a game that is compliant for minors to play, and then heavily emphasize gambling, you know what you're doing. You are morally corrupt, and you're trying to get kids hooked on gambling. I don't care about the whole, oh, think of the kids mindset. I'm thinking of, you are so, how do I put this? You're so creatively bankrupt that instead of making a good game to earn your revenue, you have to endorse child gambling.
Right.
And at that point, yeah, morally it's wrong, but I mean, just creatively, it is depressing, It's like these companies who push for, oh, if you love our content, then you have to pre-order. If you are a real fan, you pre-order. Here, look, you get this free content if you pre-order. Not available if you don't pre-order. It's like, no, fuck you, make a good game, and then I'll buy it. If it's not good, I won't buy it. I'm not going to pre-order bullshit anymore because I've been fucked over too many times by these companies who are like, yeah, but you get this free stuff. And it's like, no, because then I buy it. It's a shit game with low effort, and you're already working on your next title.
Looking at you, Capcom.
Classic.
But and I agree, and I don't know. It's like weird because it's like you said, it's a signal of just a bad game developer that they have to rely on skeevy like methods. Like, yeah, we're just gonna introduce basically gambling to a game targeted for children. So like you said, we're so creatively bankrupt that basically we have to stoop to this entirely new moral low of basically encouraging children to gamble so that way we make money. And then not only that, but take zero accountability for it. Like, on one hand, it's like, not to say that I would be okay with it, but if like the creators of Fortnite were like, yeah, we know what we're doing, like, but who's going to stop us? like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Fucking meme, dude. Like, I get it. But the fact that, like, there have been, like, so many situations where they've been approached with this issue, and they're basically like, oh, that's not at all what we're doing. We're just trying to create fun. We're sorry if your kids stole your credit cards to gamble online, but that's not our problem.
I'd say these companies love impunity. They love to come at our kids and get them hooked on gambling or sell us bullshit products that aren't complete. And then the minute we complain, they're like, oh, but that's not what we're doing. We're the good guys here.
Ooh,
Ooh, ooh, baby.
it's just, oh man, it just drives me wild. And obviously, Fortnite's not the only person that does this. EA is also very prominently problematic when it comes to like loot crates and everything else.
Look at Anthem. I don't know if you've seen any gameplay from the game Anthem.
No.
And there's a reason for that. It was so garbage that no one wanted to play it. And literally, even though people paid money for that shit, within a year they decided, oh yeah, we're not putting out any more updates. They gave up on it. Well, technically they didn't, but we all know that they only left like 5 people to update the game.
Gotcha.
And that's just classic EA. It was a quick buck. They hyped up, ooh, you can fly anywhere, do anything. And then everyone was like, ooh, this looks cool. But then the minute people start playing it, they're like, ah, I've been scammed. I see. It makes a lot more sense.
You could have just told me up front you were going to scam me or rip me off.
What can you do, though?
It's, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like that's just a symptom of the modern game model. They just, rather than making a good game, they make these games that like a handful of people enjoy, right? And then like when those handful of people stop enjoying the game and they stop making money, they're just like, ooh, new content, buy V-Bucks.
I mean, that is pretty. It goes two ways. Either A, they monopolize the game through dumb shit like cosmetics and, V-Bucks and whatnot, or they give up development on it. And because they're like, oh, it's not going to make us that much more money, so why would we bother appease, the fans? Like Breakpoint, here I am waiting on the next update for Breakpoint. We're supposed to get a DLC later this year, but I'm genuinely convinced it's not going to happen. I think between now and then, they're just, because like months ago, they announced the Tomb Raider crossover.
Yeah.
Still haven't gotten it. No word on it. I'm just convinced they've given up because it costs them money to keep doing this, to pay their employees to make this, when they could be using those people to do something that's going to bring in more money.
Yeah, and it's just like, but I feel like that brings up a whole nother issue, and that issue being that Breakpoint was a botched release, and they fixed it, but not until it was essentially too late for the game.
I mean, you're not wrong. It's, as someone who's been playing since day one, like literally that game came out the day before my birthday. I've been playing since then, and it's playable now, but literally, like you said, they gave up a long time ago.
Yeah, because I mean, like I went back and I started playing it like after the fact, like after it all kind of came out and stuff, and once things were a little more fixed. Because I remember you told me like, oh yeah, you can play the game however you want to play it. You don't necessarily have to play it like, because I know like originally the game had like one model, but then now you can basically play it in a different way, which is, for me is more fun. You don't have to worry about like the DPS and all of that. So that was my main drawback was games with DPS I tend not to like. So it's like when they've introduced the concept of having no DPS and it basically just being, skill and everything else, I was like, cool, that works for me. But then it's like, but it's kind of too little too late considering that, this game came out a year ago and I've not really thought about it.
Oh, I will say it wasn't a DPS thing. It was a looter shooter where you shoot
Right.
enemies, they drop loot, and then you equip new gear. And yeah, that's what kept me away for it. Like I played, pretty much beat the original story mode in less than a month, and then I dropped it for pretty much a whole year because who wants to play a tactical shooter where it's really not that tactical because every time you kill an enemy, they drop a giant glowing blue orb that contains a brand new vest that is 2 points better than the one you're wearing.
Yeah. And I hate those games too because it's just so much maintenance. Because you're sitting there like, oh, this gun is 2 points, like you said, 2 points better than this gun, but I'm sacrificing X, Y, or Z with trading those guns in, or it's just, oh my god, it's just a pain because it's just so much work. It stops feeling like a game and it starts feeling like a monotonous job that like I have to continue trying to switch out these weapons and shit. But like when you turn off like the looter shooter version and whatnot, you can go in and you can just say, oh yeah, I like these guns. Let's just roll with these and then go from there.
Yeah, like I like using the MK14. It's a solid DMR slash assault rifle. But in the original version of the game, it's like, oh, well, the one you have is a common looted item. But you do have in your inventory a legendary, wink, wink, like, I don't know, stubby shotgun or something. And it's like, yeah, it does more damage. Yeah, it's better categorically. And it has perks on it that make, but it's a shotgun. It sucks. It has no range.
Right.
And then the game has the audacity to say, oh, but you have to be a certain gear score to get into certain areas. And it's like, fuck off.
It's like, fine, I'll put the gear on and then take it off.
Exactly. I'm surprised the game didn't just like boot you out of the area if you do that.
Like yeah, you detach the gear necessary to be in an area, and then all of a sudden it's just like teleporting you in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Teleport, or they do that thing where like if you get caught by the drones, it sends in a group of wolves and it like amps your mini map so you can't see jack shit.
Oh
I'm
shit!
surprised it doesn't just do that whenever you go into an area you're not rated for.
You're just over here like, look, I'm rated E for everyone.
Yeah. These hands rated E for everyone. They gonna catch some heat.
Amen to that. All right, we should probably end it there because I think we're if we keep talking about this, it'll go on forever. But basically, suffice it to say, we don't like those. We don't like those games, those pay to win games. We don't like those games that base their entire business model off of basically just releasing repeated content and everything else. It's just not always the best thing. There are some proprietors who have been able to do it well, but this still doesn't mean that we like it.
Pretty much, yeah.
So anyhow, we'll pretty much close it there. We'll catch you guys next week on Wednesday for another episode of Controversy, the Speedcast. And yeah, should be fun, should be awesome, should be rocking and rolling. And then probably in a couple weeks we'll go back to our normal setup and everything else. But anyhow, everybody out there, check us out on social media. The links are in the description and they're also at the end of the video. Check us out. I think that's pretty much all I was going to say. Follow the Facebook, the Twitters, the TikToks, the Twitches. All of that should be linked and everything else. So, yeah, Salsa, go ahead and close us out, Chief.
All right. All I gotta say is, if you think you're a pro hardcore gamer, you played all the Call of Duties, the Battlefields, the DayZs and the Fortnites. Well, you need to try the next best thing. Doki Doki Literature Club just dropped on the Switch. Buy it now. #sponsored.